Today we're going to be talking about adding and subtracting rational numbers. So again, rational numbers, that's just another way to say fraction.
All right.
And so to add and subtract rational numbers, it's a little bit more complicated than the multiplying and dividing, because with adding and subtracting you have to find a common denominator. But first we have to make sure, just like with multiplying and dividing, that we convert any mixed numbers to improper fractions. Okay, so this step is the same for multiplying, dividing, adding, and subtracting. You're always going to convert any mixed numbers to improper fractions first before you do anything else. Then with adding and subtracting, if necessary, sometimes the fractions will already have the same denominator, so if that's the case, don't make it harder on yourself. But if you have to, so if necessary, you have to find a common denominator. And a common denominator would just be a number that both denominators can go into. When in doubt, you can always just take the two denominators you have and multiply them together, and that will give you a common denominator. It might not be the least common denominator, and you may have to do some more simplifying at the end, but if you're having trouble finding a common denominator, that will always give you one. So when in doubt, or if you're stuck, multiplying the two denominators together will give you a common denominator. Okay, so that will always work. Again, you might just have to do some more simplifying at the end, but if you're in a pinch and you can't find anything else, multiplying the two denominators together will always give you a common denominator. Okay, once we find our common denominator, then we will add or subtract the numerators. And the denominator stays the same. So this is where it's different than with multiplication and division. With both of those, we multiplied straight across the numerator and the denominator. We did the operation in both. With adding and subtracting, you only do that in the numerator, and the denominator just carries over. The denominator stays the same. And then I'm kind of running out of room here, but our final and fourth step, as always, is to reduce if possible. And again, you can just use the math enter button on your calculator. And then same as with multiplying and dividing, if the directions say that you have to convert your answers back to mixed numbers, then make sure you do that. but if it's not specified, then it's a personal preference. If you want to keep it as an improper fraction, you can. If you want to write it as a mixed number, that's fine too. All right, so let's do an example. So we'll do 1A. So both of these are mixed numbers, so the first thing we have to do is convert them to improper fractions. So this is where we can use our calculator, or if you want to do the by hand way, that works too. So you would do 1 plus 2 divided by 3, and then math, enter, enter to get that improper fraction, and 2 plus 1 divided by 8, math, enter, enter to get that improper fraction. So go ahead and practice that in your calculator again so you don't forget. So you should end up with 5/3 plus 17/8. Do y'all have those same improper fractions? Questions on how to get those? Okay. So now our step 2 is if we need to get a common denominator. Do we need to find a common denominator for these? Are the denominators the same? No, they're not the same, so that means we have to find a common denominator. So we need to find a common denominator. So a number that 3 and 8 can go into. So what is a number that both 3 and 8 can go into? 24. Okay, so now our goal is to get both of those denominators to be 24. So if we look at 5/3, what do we have to multiply 3 by to get to 24? 8, so you do that in the bottom and the top. Whatever you do to the bottom, you must do to the top. And then for our second one, we have to multiply 8 by 3 to get to 24. Again, you do that in the numerator and the denominator. And then we go ahead and do that multiplication. So we'll have 5 times 8 is 40 over 24 plus 51 over 24.
Shoot. I forgot my backpack at home.
Oh my gosh. So once we have our common denominators, now we can do our, in this case it's addition. Again, just make sure you are aware of the operation that you're being asked to do. A lot of times when I start asking like multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction problems all in like the same area, students like to get stuck in one way. They're like, I'm just going to multiply everything, and they do multiplication for every single problem. So just make sure you're aware of what operation I'm actually telling you to do. So this one is addition. So we add our numerators, 40 plus 51, and the denominator just carries over. We do not add the denominators. It just stays the same. And so when we do that addition, we'll have 91 over 24. And then we need to check to see if we can reduce it. So in your calculators, you would do your 91 divided by 24, and then math, enter, enter. Can we reduce it anymore? No. So we can leave it like that since I don't say you have to convert it to a mixed number. If you want to convert it to a mixed number, you can. You would have 3 and 19 over 24. So either one of these answers is okay if I don't specify. All right, let's take a look at letter B. So with this one, do we have any mixed numbers that we have to convert? Nope. Do we have to find a common denominator? Nope, because they're already the same. So we can just go right to doing our, in this case, subtraction. So the subtraction happens in the numerator, so 11 minus 5, all over 12, because the denominator just carries over. And then we do that subtraction to give us 6 over 12. And can that be reduced? Yes, to what? 1/2. And there we go. So again, just make sure you don't do a common denominator if you don't have to. Don't make your life more difficult. Okay, do you guys have any questions? All right, I want you guys to try the next 4, but I just want to go over a couple things. So letter C, when we are subtracting a negative number, what's that going to end up doing? Adding. So really that's just going to be 3/4 plus 1/6, so just be careful of that. And then with, I have ABC, ABC, that's confusing. The second A down here, make sure that when you convert this guy to an improper fraction, that you remember how we deal with that negative. Make sure you have the parentheses around it. Letter B, if you're adding a negative number, what's that the same as doing? Just subtracting, yeah. So really this is like 1/15 minus 7/24. So just keep that in mind. And I think that's good. So go ahead and try those last 4 there. And flag me down if you have any questions. We'll go over them in a few minutes. All right, so let's go over these real quick. So for letter C, well, the first letter C, so you can use a common denominator of 24. You could have used a common denominator as 12. Again, there are multiple common denominators that you can use. There's no right or wrong one, as long as it is a common denominator. Just depending on the one you choose, you might have to do some extra reducing at the end, but your calculator makes the reducing part kind of easy. So whenever you find a common denominator that works, just go with it. So you should have ended up with 11/12 for letter C. We all good there? Okay. The second letter A down here. So converting both of those to improper fractions, and then they already had a common denominator, so you just subtract straight across. So you should have ended up with 3/2 after you simplified. Letter B. So 120 is the common denominator. And then after you do some reducing, you should have ended up with -9/40. And then our very last one, we don't have any mixed numbers. We have to convert. These denominators are already the same, so we can just do our addition in the numerator. So you should have, 5/7 for letter C. Okay. Do you guys have any questions on adding or subtracting fractions? Okay.